When World War I broke out in 1914, the concept of armored warfare was still in its infancy. Let me take you on a fascinating journey through the pioneering armored vehicles that shaped modern military history. Let's start with Britain, the nation that gave birth to the term tank. The Mark I, first deployed at the Battle of the Somme in 1916, was a revolutionary rhomboid-shaped beast. Though slow and unreliable, it struck terror into German troops who had never seen anything like it. Today you can see one of the few surviving Marks at the Tank Museum in Bovington, England. France wasn't far behind with their Renault FT, arguably the most influential tank design of the war. Introduced in 1917, it featured a revolutionary rotating turret that became the standard for virtually all future tanks. Several of these historic vehicles are still preserved, including at the Musée des Blindés in Saumur, France. Germany, despite being a technological powerhouse, was actually late to the armor game. Their A7V tank, introduced in 1918, was essentially a massive steel box on tracks. Only 20 were ever built, and just one original survives today, the Mephisto, which you can visit at the Queensland Museum in Australia. Russia's contribution to armored warfare came in the form of the Tsar tank, a bizarre three-wheeled design that looked more like a giant tricycle than a combat vehicle. It never made it past the testing phase, but its experimental nature shows how nations were struggling to define what an armored vehicle should be. The United States, entering the war later, focused mainly on producing French designs under license. However, they did develop the Ford 3-ton tank, though none saw combat before the war's end. Some of these early armored vehicles seem almost comical by today's standards. Many broke down frequently, got stuck in mud, and moved at walking pace, but they represented a crucial turning point in military history. Their development during World War I laid the groundwork for the mechanized warfare that would define the 20th century. Most fascinating is how these vehicles reflected their nation's industrial capabilities and military philosophies. The British favored heavy breakthrough tanks. The French preferred lighter, more mobile designs, while the Germans, initially skeptical of tanks, would later become masters of armored warfare in World War II. Today, these pioneering armored vehicles serve as more than museum pieces. They're reminders of how technological innovation, even in its clumsiest first steps, can fundamentally change the nature of warfare. From those early lumbering beasts, we can trace a direct line to the sophisticated main battle tanks of today.